That's the latest. I'm Tim Jones.
The Summer Valley Sports Show.
Undoubtedly the greatest team the nation has ever seen.
Good evening, listeners, and welcome to another episode of the Summer Valley Sports Show. My name is Ian Knockholds, and for the next hour we'll be taking you on a special show where we're calling this the Summer Valley Supplement. It's based on the popular Sky Sports press discussion show on a Sunday morning where we talk to some of our leading local football enthusiasts and get their take on some of the big footballing matters of the day. But of course, what we're going to do is we'll kick off as we always do by saying hello to Evan. Hello, Evan. How are you, sir?
Fine, thank you very much, Ian. How are you?
I'm not bad. No, I went for a jog yesterday.
Oh, did you?
Yes, I did.
Any great distance?
No, not particularly, but I felt the need to do a bit of exercise because I attended the Radstock Town presentation afternoon.
Oh, right, yes.
Where I was met by Simon Wilkinson, who said I was looking a bit chubby. So I felt the need. I've got to do something about this, and I decided I'm going to start going for a jog. So I'll let you know how I get on with that. But are you doing anything sporty at the moment? Snooker,
not at the moment.
snooker, loopy nuts? Are you?
Not recently. I did go to Soccer Aid on Sunday for UNICEF. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
I'm familiar with the concept, but wasn't familiar with the game. How did that go?
Oh, right. It ended up 4-2 to Rest of the World.
And who were the big names on show?
Clarence Seedorf, Edgar Davids, Jaap Stam, Van der Sar, Jamie Theakston.
There we go, that other well-known footballer, of course. Excellent. Well, it was a good time had by all?
Yeah, it was fantastic, yeah.
Splendid stuff. Right then, well, Evan, would you want to kick us off by with our hellos? Of course, we say hello every week to those people who make the show what it is with our regular contributions.
Okay, hello to Tony Walsh and Nick Bunyard of Paulton Rovers.
Hello to Gareth Paisley from Welton Rovers.
Hello to Simon Wilkinson and Dave Wilkinson of Radstock Town.
Hello to Andy Jeffrey from Rivlington Tennis Club.
Hello to Rob Fuller, Jack Rowles and Matt Denning of Midsummer Norton Rugby.
Hello to Charlie Matthews from Midsummer Norton Cricket Club.
Hello to Sarah Hall of Mendip Hockey Club.
Hello to Dan Warren from Midsummer Norton Target Shooting Club.
And hello to Graham Smith of Pratton's Bowls Club.
Now, of course, we are an interactive show here on Summer Valley FM. We're always keen to get your latest sporting news, particularly in these summer months. So you can contact us at any time. You can do it by text, starting your message with SV and sending it to 81400. You can telephone us here at our studios at Summer Valley FM on 01761 411 755. You can email us on sport@Summer Valley FM, and you can check us out on social media. We are on Facebook and on Twitter. Now then, so turning our attention now to the main thrust of this evening's show, and that is the Summer Valley Supplement. I'm delighted to welcome three studio guests, our three wise men, and our three kings of Leighton Orient are. We've got Stuart Rogers making his debut in the Summer Valley FM studio. Good evening, Stuart.
Evening, everybody.
You're bringing gold, of course.
I can bring that if you want to.
We've got our very own Tony Walsh from Paulton Rovers, my co-commentator for the last couple of months on that epic, historic journey to the Southern League Premier Division for Paulton Rovers. How are you, Tony?
I'm all right. I'm just thinking of that reference to gold. I was thinking of Thatcher's gold, actually.
Are you? I was thinking, when I was thinking of you, I was thinking three wise men, of course. I was thinking more along the line of frankincense or maybe Frankenstein.
Yeah, thank
you.
Boom,
boom. And bringing the myrrh, it's Dave Wilkinson from Radstock Town. Hello, Dave, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, and it was good to see you at the presentation the other Sunday.
Well, it looked like a good time was being had by all.
You certainly got ruckus towards the end, yes.
And it was a good day for the club as well, wasn't it? Because you had, I think, some people from Bath City along as well.
We did, indeed, yeah. Bath City under-18s have been using our facilities this season for county youth floodlit games, and they decided to have their presentation as part of our barbecue afternoon, which went down rather well.
Excellent. That's excellent stuff. Right then, one of the hot topics that's been on the footballing agenda for some time is the FA Commission. And a great deal of controversy was caused when the Commission produced some of its preliminary findings, not least because of the high-profile concept of a new league featuring B teams, and this particularly provoked some outcry from the non-league and some of the lower echelons of the football pyramid. So just as a summary for listeners, the key elements of the FA Commission, they announced 4 key recommendations to boost English football's fortunes at club and international level. At the heart of the plan is the creation of a new tier within the Football League to accommodate Premier League B teams. The review also calls for a reform of the work permit system to reduce the number of non-EU players in the Premier League, a reduction in non-homegrown players in the top flight, and a strategic loan partnership between the Premier League, Championship and lower leagues. Now, the FA chairman, Greg Dyke, set out... Well, one of his comments when setting out the findings of the Commission was, "We set out to answer one simple question. How can we get more English players playing at the highest level? Our attention is not in any way, or even intention, our intention is not in any way to undermine the traditions of our football pyramid. I believe we will enhance them by having young players at the top." So I thought I'd kick off tonight's discussion by asking the question, was the question of how we get more English players playing at the highest level the right one for Greg Dyke to start asking at the beginning of his tenure? And I know, Dave, you're a man who's got some opinions on this FA Commission, so I thought you'd like to kick us off.
I think the simple answer to the question, was it a good place for Greg Dyke to kick off, is probably no, it wouldn't, because it's a lot bigger question to be answered than how many players. I mean, we're not talking about quantity. We want quality coming through and rising through the ranks so that we actually get to the pinnacle of the game with enough English players to be able to pick an England side that actually has the necessary quality to compete on the world stage. And fortunately, the way the current football setup is in this country, that it's instant success is required, and quite often young players are overlooked for their foreign counterparts because those guys have had an easier route into the higher echelons of their game and consequently have become transfer targets of the big club because they think they're buying instant success with that player. So I think for Greg Dyke to start that whole process without first understanding the problems that we've got within the game in this country and actually differentiating between the Premier League and what's needed to compete in the Premier League and what's needed at grassroots level, true grassroots level, to start generating interest in quality in young players that the Football League clubs can then make use of. If he doesn't understand that, he's starting from the wrong place. And by asking this question, I believe he's started in the wrong place.
So do you think it's a question of him sort of putting the cart before the horse?
I think it's like any walk of life. You have to fully understand the problem you're trying to address to be able to solve it. And I don't think he fully appreciates, because let's be honest, these guys move in a completely different world to the rest of us. I mean, we've all experienced the hospitality of the FA, which is second to none. You go to Wembley for a meeting and you're an FA official, you have to travel first-class train. I mean, they don't move in the same circles that we move, so they've never had to address the same problems that we've had to address. Until they understand that, then they have to realise that. Then they'll start to realise that you need a different route for a child, a young person, call him what you will, to have the right level of dedication to get into football. Too many kids are pushed by their parents into positions they don't necessarily want to be in. They don't necessarily want to play football. There's other distractions. Football is not the be-all and end-all of a kid's life, where it may have been 20 years ago. And that's what has to be addressed by the FA. They have to make it more attractive. They have to want the kids to come in. They have to want the kids to be hungry enough to get to the higher echelons of football, not to have their parents pushing them into it. And that's a different question that needs answering to what Greg Dyke approached when he was talking about players that were already signed for Arsenal, Manchester United and Liverpool. This is not every Premier League club. This is just the top 10 that he's talking about, and you're making it even more elitist, and by doing that you're going to push more kids out of the bottom.
Yeah. Stuart, the World Cup is nearly upon us, and I think that probably helps to focus our mind on the success of our national side. But you, as an administrator at Welton Rovers, you're involved in the grassroots of the game. How do you feel about the fact that the FA's incoming chairman is focused on the success of the national team rather than perhaps getting to grips with some of the grassroots issues at football?
I think there's lots of elements to a similar debate here. You've got the number of foreign players playing in the Premier Division. That's a difficult one to get to the root of, because we've got EU legislation which means that we can't exclude the European footballers from earning a living in the UK. We've got the issues that Dave's talked about with regards to kids football and actually kids progressing through. We've got funding for grassroots football, which is pitiful in the UK in comparison to other countries. We've got a fantastic league system where it's possible for one club to start in the Mid-Somerset and in theory end up in the Premier League. And that's something to be valued. Not every country has that. In fact, very few do. But it's something which people love about the English game is the English pyramid. So there's lots of things going on. I think outside of the Premier Division, football clubs don't make money. They're propped up by people, and that's a big problem as well. And so there's lots of issues to square away here, and I don't think you can look at it and know really where to start. I think there's lots of places where the boy can be putting his finger in the dam. He puts his finger in one hole. There's one somewhere else to fill. There's a huge problem. It comes back to the fact that the England team hasn't played particularly well the last decade, 15 years. And I guess the idea is a bit like the Olympics. You create a good national team, you've got this cascade down effect in terms of popularity, participation, people wanting to support football and get involved, fund it, and that, there's a cyclical a knock-on impact which then builds the game. But it's very difficult to know where to start in solving that. I can't say I'm a fan of this, but I think it's going to be hugely challenging. I look at it and the phrase "turkeys voting for Christmas" I think comes to mind.
One of the things you mentioned there was the Olympics, and the legacy of the Olympics was a big issue coming on from 2012. And I think I heard one commentator recently referring to the British legacy from the 2012 Olympics is it's created a nation of spectators, because we love nothing more now than to go out and watch a big showcase event. The problem is we were supposed to all want to go out and participate in sport. If we have a successful England team, are you hopeful that one of the legacies of that is that down throughout the pyramid it will encourage more people perhaps to go and watch their local side, which is of as much benefit potentially for the Bristol clubs, for Bath City, and then further out into, say, our area? A successful England team, a good World Cup could mean that we get a few more bums on seats at West Clewes?
I think there's an element of that. I'm not sure that one knocks on directly to the other. I think there's lots of challenges for a non-league club to get people to come along week in, week out, and I think that's slightly different. I think what you would hope from a successful World Cup, a successful England team, is the kind of feeling that I got as a teenager back in 1990 when we did do exceptionally well, and the first thing you wanted to do was after the game was go outside, kick a football around. And I remember doing that with my next door neighbour then, and it was just a feeling of excitement, a feeling of wanting to be involved, feeling of wanting to participate, and that drove the football. That feeling drove the football I played personally for the next 10-15 years after that. And I think that's what we're looking for, is just an interest in the game generally. I think that's what we need to hope for from a good England showing at the World Cup.
Tony?
Yeah, I agree with this two-way thing. I think it's top down. 2/3 of the coaches, I think, in the Premiership are foreign. Therefore, they sign foreign players. It's interesting with EU legislation. It is not illegal to say that you can have 5 national players of the national, potentially people who will play for the national team in the team. You can't stop freedom of employment from the EU countries. Too many work permits seem to be handed out to people from countries that it's dubious whether they're good enough, and therefore we've got a lot of mediocrity in the Premiership, certainly amongst the squads of players. And that includes some of the Premiership clubs. I mean, they're shipping people in and shipping people out because they soon realise that they're not up to it. I can't see what's wrong in Premiership clubs loaning out players to players in the Championship and Divisions 1 and 2 to see their potential, And I've seen over the years a number of players who were not given that opportunity. I can think of Henry Lansbury, who I saw make his debut for Scunthorpe United when I was up there on a rare occasion from Arsenal. He had great potential. He'd had glandular fever the previous year. First pass he did was a 60-yard pass from one wing to the next. I thought, oh, crikey, we've got a future England international. And he's been on the fringes of the under-20, captain of the under-21s. He's now with Nottingham Forest. Arsene Wenger didn't give him a chance. I think I could cite many other questions, but that's the top-down position. This league big position is an absolute nonsense. How do you improve players by loaning them out to a division that's going to sit somewhere between Division 2 and the Conference? Conference A, Conference B. A lot of conference sides are struggling to put together packages. We've heard today that Hereford United have gone under, whether they reform in some form, and although they could probably play Paulton next year. But so the other thing is that the FA have got to put money into football at the grassroots, not feed it back at the top echelons for the Premiership to the sides like Radstock, Welton and Paulton, because we are the future. We will produce maybe the odd player who will go from Radstock, from the Western League, move up to bottom. We've done it. We've exchanged players. We've worked well together as the bitter rivalries of the past will still be there, but I mean, we can improve on that. We can improve by saying this is for the betterment of the community as a whole. I think you alluded, Dave, to about 20 years ago. I think 20 years ago, over 1 million people over 18 were playing football week in, week out. I think that figure is now down to about 600,000. Leagues are folding left, right and centre. I mean, the Frome Sunday League is in danger of folding, I understand. There's speculation about some of the leagues in Bath. And I can remember when I was younger, divisions... I lived in Chester for a while. The Chesterfield Saturday League had 6 divisions, and the standard was excellent. A lot of those lads went on to play non-league football. It's gone. It's gone.
I think I've said for a long time, there's the leagues have changed the shape of football in this country, and they haven't necessarily changed it for the better. But of course, the biggest threat to the game is from the social climate that we currently live in, and the economics of playing football. To play junior or parks football is going to cost you at least £5 to play. And I mean, the FA could get together with local authorities, and they could help in this situation, but just a few years ago there was a subsidy from all schools, etc., regarding local clubs using playing fields. That's been abandoned. Local authorities have taken that option away from schools. So, to be perfectly honest, it's a Frome Sunday League. It's costing you £5 to play in that. It's costing you £5 to play on Saturday. People aren't going to do it. So the game is going to suffer. We're going to lose people, and you may lose somebody. I mean, I can name some of the greats and the years gone by, and I mean, Kim Book, Tony Book, Tony Goff, all came into the game. They never got into the professional game till they were in their 20s. But that's all changed now. You'll never see that happen anymore because the clubs don't have the scouting networks they used to have. They rely entirely on their academies, and that's excluding the late developer or the kid who gets to 15 or 16 and thinks, oh, I'll have a game of football. So there's a lot of factors that are actually affecting why we've got that drop off in numbers, and I don't think they're being addressed.
We're gonna take a short break there. Going to have an advert break, and I want you to keep in mind the question of leagues, because that's going to be the question that we're going to come back to after this short break.
The Summer Valley Sports Show.
Undoubtedly the greatest team the nation has ever seen.
Riverside Taxis, the friendly and local taxi company you can rely on to get you there safely and on time. Riverside Taxis serves Midsummer Norton, Paulton, Peacetown, St John, Radstock and surrounding areas. Major airports including Bristol, Gatwick and Heathrow, and seaports all covered. Lady drivers are always available, just ask us. And you can rely on us for regular school runs. We're not just a taxi company, you can trust us with your important courier jobs too. Riverside Taxis, 01761 411 894.
5678 888.
Stu Black here. Slow and Dirty, Tuesday, 8 till 10.
Stu Black? On the wireless? Seriously?
Yep, it's me, I'm back. Every Tuesday, 8 till 10, Slow and Dirty, Summer Valley FM, 97.5. Seriously.
The Summer Valley Sports Show with Ian Knockoll.
97.5 Summer Valley FM.
Welcome back to the Summer Valley Sports Show and this special Summer Valley Supplement issue. Now, we were talking about leagues and league structures before the break, and that's partly because the headline-grabbing part of the FA Commission was the idea of implementing a B-team league. Now, the Football League clubs have met and they've kicked that idea into the long grass. But I question whether or not that concept was ever needed in the first place if you take on board the other recommendation, which was this strategic loan partnership. Because if we look at the football family as a whole, whether we look at it in the professional game and the league structure, or if we look at it locally, we've seen success stories with players like Ashley Barnes going from Paulton, making his way in the professional game, and also we've seen the likes of Andy Catley, who I think has unfortunately played for the other club, not Portsmouth, but has found his way in sort of at the end of his career at Welton. Players move up and down the leagues, they move between clubs. That's the nature of the beast. Did it really need to be tinkered with? Did it nearly need another league to help that situation?
I think another league in amongst an already established pyramid, where we've got possibly these B teams going up and down. I think they can go as low as Conference North-South, and they can go as high as League One. The teams around them will be the clubs around them will be mortified by that possibility. The amount that they have to graft exceptionally hard at that level for every single pound that they can then reinvest into football, and for a multi-million-pound machine like Manchester United to come along and stick a B team in. And I think if we said that Manchester United were capable of sticking out another class of 92 reserve team next season in or around this division at conference national level, let's say, I don't think too many of us would. I think it would be a major disincentive to the clubs around them. Yes, they probably would get better attendances, but the chances of promotion would be greatly reduced. I think it takes away some of the quality of the pyramid structure. Could loans be better used? Yeah, I mean, I think certainly they have become a normal part of football business. There's some issues with it, that those issues have been resolved. I can think of the Watford situation where pretty much most of the team were on loan from somewhere in Italy. Those sorts of things need to be changed, but I think the general concept's a sound one. I also think, thinking back maybe 20 years, there used to be very, very strong reserve team leagues in and around the area, across the region. And those seem to have dwindled away. I mean, I hear of professional clubs paying half a dozen reserve team fixtures a season, and that's ridiculous. That kind of thing needs to be looked at as well.
Wasn't the I certainly think that the Les Phillips Cup, Dave, which you may well be familiar with in the Western League, previous winners of that include the likes of Bristol Rovers reserves, I believe. In the past, did the Western League feature some of these reserved sides from professional clubs?
The Western League, for many, many years, would have had Bath City reserves playing it, Yeovil Town reserves, Plymouth Argyle, Torquay United, City and Rovers more back in the 50s and 60s, but certainly when did I last play for Welton? Because the last time I played Welton, we played Yeovil Town reserves. That would have been 85, I think, so they were certainly in it then.
But Yeovil were in it as little as 10 years ago.
Yeah, but the issue, of course, with it is they were yo-yo clubs, so the leagues were almost anti having them in it, because they would yo-yo. One season they'd be in, next season they'd be out, next season they'd be in. When the pyramid started, of course, the plan was that every club in the pyramid could be promoted through the pyramid, through organic growth. So reserve sides who wouldn't be allowed to progress to those levels were frowned upon and dropped out of it. So by actually bringing in these B sides, who, let's face it, when Arsenal or Manchester United put a B-side out, the result doesn't come into it. They're looking for performance. They're almost taking away the competitiveness of the game, because they're not going to like some 6'3" ex-miner who's playing for the opposition clogging their precious 19 or 20-year-old, are they? I mean, but in certain parts of the game, especially in the conference where they plan on playing them, there are some hard physical matches played and some hard physical players. So I don't necessarily think it's something that perhaps Arsene Wenger or Van Gaal or anybody, Jose Mourinho, is going to be too impressed if his key players are injured playing in the conference.
Just experience from university. I went to university in Birmingham, and one of the, probably a league that's sort of equivalent to Somerset County stroke Western League was the Midland Combination, and they had a dedicated reserve team league for all of the Southern League clubs and above, and that included at the time reserve teams from Bromsgrove Rovers, Rushden Diamonds, Atherstone United, Solihull Borough, clubs like that, fantastic non-league clubs in the Midlands. And that division was the place where everybody wanted to play. Everybody was under 25. You had to be exceptionally fit to play in it. I didn't play in it, I refereed in it, but it was, and that's where all the referees wanted to referee as well, by the way, because the standard of football was actually much higher than inside the pyramid. And it was a fantastic division. It was reserve team against reserve team, and there was good quality on show, and it was competitive. And I just go back to, if there were proper reserve team leagues, I don't think we'd be having some of these conversations.
Tony, I've seen in the last couple of seasons some of the brightest talent that's been around the Paulton Rovers first team, in the shape of Ryan Gay and Dan Cottle in particular. I can think of a few others as well who've been loaned out to other Western League sides. I mean, those two players, for example, have gone to Welton Rovers. So the idea of loan partnerships wasn't a great new idea that was going to revolutionise the game. At a local level, that goes on anyway, doesn't it? Whether it's Bristol Rovers to Bath and Bath to Paulton and Paulton to Welton, that's not exactly a new concept.
No, and although both Dan and Ryan have been playing for Welton, and Paddy Doyle's been playing at Radstock and at Welton, these are players that could well come back when they're a little bit stronger. I mean, taking Dave's point and Stuart's point, Southern League can be more physical. It's more subtly physical, I would think, than the Western League, and it's faster. You've got players with tremendous athletic ability, some of who have been rejected by league clubs, but you will always get one or two players from each club who will stand out, and you'll think, well, they could play at a higher level, and we'll see next season in Paulton's case, and there are some of the new signings, indeed, of players. I think you remarked on Mike Bryant when we played against Yates, and he absolutely stood out, and there's a player who now will be playing for Paulton at a high level. So this is happening, and youngsters from the area do get opportunities. We've had preempting your question tonight, I think we've had 9 lads who are all born in Paulton Hospital who've played in Paulton's first team more than one occasion this season, and some of them have been regulars, of course. And I've said it to you before, if these lads go out to Welton to improve, if Welton develop them, take them on, or Radstock take them on, and we all swap our players, isn't it for the benefit of the whole area? But I mean, going back to this point and following on from Stuart's point there, if Manchester United wanted to get involved at every tier of the pyramid, they could have a feeder side. Instead of having a scouting system, they could have Radstock in Division 1 and Paulton, and where does it end? I would rather clubs be allowed to develop their own financial constraints given at every constraints given at every level from Division 2 to Division 1. And the top side of the players we've players when we played Norwich, we had 2 really surprised, and one of them I'm really surprised it's hasn't made it. It's tough. I think it's 3% of all players. I think it's 3% of all players who professional level coach would be actually professional club. It's a professional game. Actually, never mind playing a professional game. Never mind playing a premiership. We've got to now. It goes back to this point. We've got to now players. That's where it starts. And I don't personally think that England's been a massive failure. We haven't won competitions, but we've always been there, barring 1 year at the World Cup. But what we're comparing ourselves is, of course, with Spain and Germany and Italy, and they do not have the feeder leagues outside of the Bundesliga and the top leagues that we do here. I mean, if you ever look at the pyramid system in Spain, you talk about Division 2, they've got Section A, Section B. It's impossible to get promoted. I mean, the top sides very rarely change places. You look at the top side, the La Liga, you may get 2 or 3 sides who come from the second division. Those sides will, because they've got financial muscle, will be vying to get back up the next season. You don't get sides, as Stuart made the point, the Wimbledon, AFC Wimbledon, who've gone from restarting in the Southern League to getting back in the Football League. That would be an impossibility in most of these countries. And outside of the top 2 divisions in Germany, everything is on a regional basis. And very narrowly related, almost to each state. So you just don't get the players. It's very rare that a Bundesliga side pluck a player out of the non-league, as indeed I think Peterborough have signed 3 players from the Rymans and the Southern League this week alone.
Right, on that bombshell, we're going to go over to the tweets, and when we come back, gentlemen, we're going to be decidedly more constructive in our criticism. We're going to be looking at what the FA should have been doing about coaching. But Evan, do you want to take us through what's been going on in the world of social media?
The Summer Valley Sports Show with Ian Knockoll.
97.5 Summer Valley FM.
Jack Wiltshire has tweeted, finally here in Brazil, after all the preparation work, it feels so good to be here. Hashtag Rio, hashtag World Cup 2014. Lewis Hamilton has tweeted, we've been friends for a long time, and as friends we have our ups and downs. Today we spoke and we're cool, still friends. This is Lewis Hamilton on Nico Rosberg. Ian Poulter has tweeted, I walked the course last night and chipped and putted. The course is absolutely superb. Hashtag US Open Golf, which starts on Thursday, which is some people think it's much more exciting than the World Cup. Midsummer Norton Cricket have tweeted, looks like the club finishes the weekend with 3 teams at top of the league. This could be hashtag Year of the Green Cap. This is the news that Midsummer Norton Cricket Club have won by 134 runs against Chew Magna. And Edwin van der Sar has tweeted, always a great feeling carrying a trophy out at Old Trafford. Hashtag Soccerade. Thank you everyone for donating. There you go.
The Summer Valley Sports Show.
Undoubtedly the greatest team the nation has ever seen.
Do you want a job? I know somewhere you can work and get qualified at the same time. Somewhere with fantastic career opportunities. An apprenticeship in a local business where you get paid every month. An apprenticeship where you go to college 1 day a week. A college that has been creating jobs since 1947. Norton Radstock College. Drop into the college's job shop opposite Radstock Co-op to find out more. Or check out our website for details, nortcoll.ac.uk.
Right then, welcome back to the Summer Valley Supplement. And in the first half of the show, we were looking back over some of the headline-grabbing recommendations from the FA Commission. The FA Commission released 4 areas that it wanted to address in the game. The 2 that were covered in the preliminary announcement were the ones that we've discussed here, the idea of B teams and the structure around loan partnerships and player registration. But the issue of coaching and coach development and grassroots facilities have been left until after the World Cup, which surprises me personally. Dave, do you think that this was an area which Greg Dyke really should have addressed as a priority?
Well, it's certainly a priority. Whether he would have been able to address it in the timescales that he was promising for his initial reviews, another thing. I'm seriously concerned about the quality of coaching that we're seeing in the professional game, which filters down to the level 1, the junior coaching. I've got no no issue at all with somebody who's wants to be involved with a kids team, who wants to develop kids football, who wants to actually progress a group of kids so they learn how to play in a team, they learn to play a team game. What concerns me is that they're being fed a manual from the FA it's a failed model. Our English team, you can see that's the way we coach is not correct. We go from a coaching manual that Harold Wilkinson wrote a few years ago, was a piece of nonsense at the time, to mixing that with the various continental coaches and their continental style, and nobody has any real direction, and the only place that coaching can be directed is from Wembley, and really everybody is blaming everybody else and nobody's actually taking responsibility for the development of kids in the game. And I feel certainly at the age of 5, 6 and 7, kids should be purely enjoying playing with a football. There shouldn't be any particular structure to it. And also, the way kids are developing now, it's not... When I was a kid, all you wanted to do was play football. Computers were something you had on Thunderbirds. They weren't something you had in your back garden. What we've got now is a situation where kids have many, many distractions, and making them play football in a world that we currently live in by good parents that are well-meaning, but they see a payday at the end of it, is not the way to go. I think grassroots coaching should be done in the schools, and the FA should be funding the right levels of coaches within the school setup. I mean, I design school interiors. I understand the amount of money that's being spent in school development. I mean, here at Somerville, they're having a 3G, possibly a 4G playing surface laid. Radstock Town haven't got 4G. I mean, are we going to be able to afford to pay the fees for our kids to train on Somerville's 4G? Somebody has to pay it back somewhere along the line. Ridlington School pricing itself out of the market. It's hardly used during the day. The business model for 4G that the schools put forward is compelling because of the schools. The business model that a club could put forward is probably the same business model, but doesn't add up anymore. Doesn't add up. So it's a very... So whilst I think Greg Dyke, he needs to address the coaching, but on two levels. A, how we coach and what we coach, and B, where we coach. I mean, let's be honest, kids need to be balanced mentally, and they need to be able to play the sport. They need to balance sport with academia. They're told they need to go to university. I mean, is a football match that much important? Is that important when it comes to they're being told if they haven't got a degree they're not going to get a job when they leave school? I mean, but a school could approach it in a different way. So I think there is a lot of things to be discussed around this subject.
A few months ago, we on this show championed finding a sponsor for your manager, Lloyd Edgell, to get his coaching badges, because one of the things we found out initially when Lloyd was appointed as your interim manager was that the Western League require a certain standard of qualification. Gordon Bennett. Qualification. Good. I think that appears in the FA Commission. Let's go on a QI with that one. Qualification for managers, for league managers. Now, part of that is box ticking, but actually the other part of it was we went and did some research into finding out what courses were available through the Somerset FA. Frankly, Lloyd did a stand-up job steadying the ship when he took over as interim manager, and I know you're all very positive about the fact that he's looking to take things forward up at Southfield's recreation ground. But does Lloyd need that coaching qualification to make him a better coach, or does he just need it to tick the box to get him to be able to coach for the league?
In my opinion, it's a box-ticking exercise, and it's another reason for the local FA, the Somerset FA, the county FAs. It just shows what a done organisation it is. They're well past their sale-by dates. We need a complete review of how football's run in this country, and this charter standard, which is a complete load of nonsense, in my opinion. I mean, CRB check. If you CRB check Jimmy Savile, he'd pass. Now, is that correct? Is that right? Why are clubs being put through all this when there's absolutely no need? Charter standard, the levels of coaching, how we coach, it hasn't made Lloyd a better person. He became a better person when he joined the army and got the discipline from being in the military. And he would have been taught more by his sporting coaches in the military than he'll ever be taught by somebody who's never really played the game. They just managed to get their coaching badges up the UEFA B, and then they can coach other coaches. It's not going to make anybody a better footballer. What it does teach you is discipline in skills, and there's certainly an element of that required. But I don't think the way the coaching manual is set out at the moment, it's going to actually improve the standard of football going forward. I mean, bearing in mind Aaron Wilkinson and his cronies wrote that book 15 years ago, and football's gone downhill since then, and we're still using the same coaching model.
Now, Tony, I know you're a man who's taken a key eye in your grandson's footballing development. How do you feel about the standard of coaching in our schools?
Well, he plays for Chilcotton, and I've been impressed with Chilcotton. I think they're the brand leader, if you like, in this area. Throughout from top to bottom. But again, my impression is they've allowed the kids to play the football that Dave's pointed out. I mean, this business about kids being signed up for academies at 8 is absolute nonsense. Till they're 12 or 13, kids should just be allowed to go and play. Yeah, show the correct position, try them out in different positions, but not to coach them to death. I mean, I've watched some youngsters, probably 10 or 11 years old, and the cones are out and they're doing their zigzags in between, and they're working themselves to death before they've even played a game. What's that again? Because their bones are still, and the muscles are still growing. Let kids get on with it, and stop clubs hand-picking kids when they're that young. It should be outlawed, because, again, some of the points you touched on, I think there should be funding for coaching. I think there should be basic coaching, but for me, coaching, I mean, I took the refereeing exam because of my indiscipline on the football field, I'll admit it. Passed and did a little bit of refereeing. Didn't particularly enjoy it, but it gave me the rudiments of the game, made me realise all the rules that I didn't understand or was prepared to ignore, I know how to face up to. And so that's something that all coaches should do, take the refereeing course. And then, but coaching's not rocket science in my book. I mean, I've never had a coaching badge. I've managed quite a few teams over the years. But, it's about man management, it's about getting players together, it's about allowing people to develop. And they'll develop in all different ways.
Do I get the general idea that actually you think, and I might be, if I'm putting words into people's mouths and come back to me here, but do I get the feeling that actually you think the FA would be doing better if they were to invest in coaching in schools? So really looking at it from the bottom up at that level.
Oh, where did we go into play?
School.
10 years of age. We had a second 11 at junior school, and then we did have a teacher who was quite determined to win every competition in the area at 11 years, and we did. When I went up to secondary level schools, yes, we got PE teachers who were keen to, we did have successful sides at my school, but it wasn't. It was a school that was academic. It was a grammar school, but that's by the way, really. It's academic, but at the same time, they wanted kids to do well along the pyramid system. I mean, Nick Bunyard, for instance, went to Millfield. Probably you get there, you get the best training in the world. And Nick never played professionally. I mean, he played for Paulton on 2 occasions and played for Forest Green. He's passing on his skills, but I think in essence it's a team, as I see it at our club, between Josh Jeffries, who's played, we call him a veteran now, I suppose, but he's been there 10 years, Paul Milson, who obviously played for Bath City at a higher level, and Nick, and they're all different characters, but they get the message over to the lads exactly what they want them to do, and I'm sure that's replicated at Radstock as well.
I think the experience is important. You look at Welton, you've got Nick, who's is part of the Chippenham FA Vars finest team. Malcolm Beck's obviously done a lot in the game. Was at Welton for a long time, but then went to Yeovil to play in the upper echelons of non-league. Done a huge amount of coaching. Those two have got between them, probably in the thousands of good non-league games under their belt, and you can see that when they're with the players. The difficult thing is if you haven't got that experience, where do you get experience? You can't go and buy it off the shelf. You have to go and get it somewhere, and that involves making mistakes, and it involves learning by those mistakes. And no one wants to be in the environment where those mistakes are being made. No one wants to be the chairman where the manager's learning. We go back to what Dave said earlier about instant success. I mean, you still need that at Western League, unfortunately.
Stuart, here's an interesting thought then, because one of the things I know that schools that challenge schools, particularly at primary school level, is that really you do need a teacher who's got a passion for well, I mean, we're all talking about football, so we'll stick with football, but appreciate that PE in primary schools needs to cover many bases, not just football. But you need a teacher with a real passion for football to be able to sort of really apply the sort of passion that you're talking about and that Tony was talking about, that the manager is able to impart on the players. Perhaps closer community work between those players who've played perhaps at a reasonable standard in the non-league game and understand what it is to be competitive there, rather than just sort of hit and hoof. Maybe there's more that perhaps clubs can do, maybe more that the FA can facilitate between clubs and local schools to help pass on that enthusiasm and that knowledge.
I think if there was a deal, if you could call it a deal, between local football clubs, non-league football clubs and schools, where facilities came one way and experience went in the other, because you've got the people, we've got the Nick Bunyards, the Lloyds, the Nick Beaverstocks, who want the training facilities, but they've got the experience, and there's an exchange, there's a deal that can be done between all parties that makes some sense, that brings a little bit of enthusiasm into the schools. I think that works. Hard to get going, but it's a nice idea.
That's where the FA commitment comes in, because we're talking about managers and senior players who are having to work and are all family men. If we were able to fund between us maybe a player or a manager who's paid by the FA or paid through the clubs to go into the schools, then that's the way forward. That's the part of the development that you were talking about. Well, I hope you talk about. And the other point, I think, Stuart, is that sometimes you've got to take risks with giving managers a chance. I mean, Andy Jones played for all our clubs as a player. I played with him for a little while. He was given the chance. He stepped up from the reserve team. We were inundated with applications for people that wanted a mint of money in the budget. And again, when Andy moved on, Nick stepped up from being assistant manager. So you've got to take risks at times as well. I mean, it is. Well, Lloyd's a typical point. Probably a lad who's going to go somewhere and manage. When he stops playing as well, but
Well, I think Lloyd's great one. When you're in the military, you get this level of understanding of your own abilities, and you test your own abilities to the maximum you can. But Lloyd, he brings with him a level of respect, slightly different to what Nick would bring, because Nick brings football in respect from his players. People know his history. Same with Nick out at Welton. I mean, it's the same situation. He brings a level of respect from the players that come into the club. I think by coaching the kids at a school level with people who've played the game, it actually is better than an FA coach who takes them and, as you said earlier, Tony, and you're absolutely right, zigzagging between cones and playing inside of tram lines is not the way to let a kid play football. If you go to Holland and watch kids of 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9, they don't have an organised game as such. I mean, they know which way they're kicking, and they just are allowed to express themselves with the ball. And a lot of the way that they're controlled and looked after is by people who understand those children's mentalities and how to get the best out of them. And I believe a combination of school teachers who work with the kids every day and experience from football and the respect that would generate would actually improve the quality of the players when they get to that sort of critical 13, 14, 15-year-old age group. Dario Grady, who's probably the greatest exponent of developing young footballers, always ran, as well as Crewe Alexandra first team, the under-15s, because he said that was the key area. That was when a kid started to become a real footballer, and he could then tell. But of course now, as Tony quite rightly put out, they're saying if they haven't signed for an academy when they're 7 or 8 years old, they're failed.
Right, we're going to have to have one last break, gents, and then what we're going to do is we're going to wrap it up with your favourite subject, referees.
Summer Valley FM.
Broadcasting online at summervalleyfm.co.uk and on 97.5. This is Summer Valley FM.
Have you got a community event you'd like to broadcast on your local radio station?
Contact Summer Valley FM now on 01761 411 755.
The Summer Valley Sports Show with Ian Knockoll.
97.5 Summer Valley FM.
Welcome back to the Summer Valley Supplement, the final section of our show, and we're going to take you up to 7 o'clock with my panel's favourite subject, referees. Now, I've spent time with you all over the last season where you've all had a good moan at the man in the middle. And what surprises me most, as I was about to introduce this section, is the fact that two of you just admitted that you're qualified referees yourselves, so you must have some idea about how difficult it must be. But, Dave, refereeing is a question that has entertained your mind, I know, for some time. We've been talking about coaching the coaches, we've been talking about coaching the players. What do you think the FA could be doing or should be doing to encourage a better quality of refereeing into the game?
Well, it certainly needs more than a 6-week course and then let them loose on games and spoil everybody's Saturday afternoon, which they tend to set out to do. What worries me more than anything is a kid going into refereeing now is once again got glory in his eyes because he sees that as an easy route through a number to the glory of the Premier League and the big riches of playing football league games, refereeing football league games, without really understanding the implications of what they do. And I think it's very important that they have to realise that what they do on a Saturday afternoon or a Tuesday night seriously impacts on the way a club conducts its business. The FA have a system at the moment which they call mentoring, where they are coached by somebody who looks after maybe 10 or 12 of them in a particular area, and then they're regularly assessed by the FA. The problem is to get a good assessment, to get better coaching, to get better marks from the clubs, they believe they have to implement the rules rigidly. Now, of course, we're looking through it through biased eyes. We don't necessarily see it from the referee's angle. I think, I don't know how you do it, but they have to be coached to be consistently more accurate with their decision making. If they start off badly, well, let them finish badly, but don't become good for 5 minutes in the middle. We need consistency within the way that the refereeing model works. I think the rules are quite concise, they're quite clear. I think either we stick rigidly to them or they're given a level of grace. What you can't do is have one referee refereeing in one style, another referee refereeing in another style. How the FA address that, I think, is maybe perhaps not one for talking about here, but I think there's an issue with politics. I think there's an issue with where they come from, how they view certain players that are playing on the field. I think there's a whole issue that you and I have talked about previously with rural racism. I think it's a real issue and it has to be faced on a number of levels. Stuart, you've officiated. And what is it? What your experience of following Welton this season? Were you happy with what you were seeing going on out in the middle? And do you have any ideas about what you'd like to see the FA and perhaps the Western League do to improve the standard of refereeing?
I think I'm probably a bit more sanguine about it, surprisingly, than Dave. I say surprisingly because you said that you've seen me during one or two games. Notwithstanding the fact that I refereed for 4 or 5 years and not a bad standard in the Midlands. I think during the game, you've put probably 30 hours into the week leading up to the game with a club, and the enjoyment bit is the 90 minutes, and it's possible for someone that you don't know to come along and ruin it all. Also, the other team can ruin it, but that's not so bad. It's the referee that gets under your skin. I think as soon as the whistle goes at the end of the game and you're back in the bar, I tend to be a bit more sanguine about it. I still have a moan. I'm not sure there's a great deal that you can do as a club, and I'm not sure there's a great deal that I would want to do, because a big part of what makes football fantastic is the fact that it creates talking points, and one of the massive talking points about any game of football is what the man in the middle sees differently from the other 250 people at the ground. And it makes football, it makes it entertaining. I'm not sure I would want to have a consistent referee, otherwise we'd just be looking at the football, and to be honest, sometimes it's the referee that does make the game. So I'm not sure there's a great deal to be done about it. I think we just need to be a bit more patient. It's an incredibly difficult job to do.
Tony, is it a surprise to you that we've still got people volunteering to referee in the game, or are you pleased with the way that the system is working at the moment?
No, I think there's lots to be improved. I think the point that's been made that there's lots of money to be made in refereeing if you get to the higher echelons, and that does attract some good, some bad people. I have to say, 2/3 of the referees we had last season were excellent. It's the others who've been fast-streamed. They tend to come, and it is a question of geography. The nearer you get to the home counties, the poorer the quality, and we do experience that certainly in the Southern League. There's some very good local referees here. We're fortunate in that many of the guys that we get, and women, we had an excellent referee at Northley, remember, when you were there. Sean Perrott, I think her name was, but some of the people are heading into the league system. They're already there, some of them. The guy we had in the playoff final at Merthyr is a Football League linesman. I understand he's been progressed onto into the middle next season, so and he was good. It's about man management. It's about talking to people. All the good referees we've had have been good at talking to people, not just talking to the captains by their own name, by their first names, talking throughout the game. And I mean, I took the refereeing exam a long, long time ago with George Flint, who was a top referee in his heyday, and he says your job's to keep 22 players on the pitch. And I think sometimes some of the people forget that. They want to follow the rules rigidly, and it's a pity that referees don't come along to the clubs beginning of the season. I said that to Noel Barry when he was at a Southern League meeting some years ago, that referees from the county FA go along to the clubs and talk what their interpretation of the rules are, because the interpretation of the rules in referees' eyes have changed without involving the clubs.
Stuart, we're rapidly running out of time, but one of the things that I've appreciated since I've been doing this show is that, and perhaps it's something that similar to your experience of refereeing is, and now at Welton as an administrator there, actually the clubs are paying for the privilege of having referees coming along, and that when you're worried about the number of people coming through the turnstiles, the number of people putting pounds over the bar for money to bring money into the club, that rather focuses the mind on the quality of refereeing you're getting for your money.
Yeah, it does bring it into sharp focus. So I don't know what Dave's experience is, but it's not uncommon for us to be in a net deficit position before we've paid the players. We will have lost money because the gate that we've got doesn't cover the referees' expenses, and that can happen where the referees come from places like Winchester, Poole, Southampton, New Forest, places like that. The expenses are astronomical. There should be some officials that live slightly closer to the ground who are available, and I'm sure the FA administrators could move things around slightly differently so that referees and assistants can go to games which are slightly more local to them than a 100-mile trek.
Well, what a positive note to finish on. I'd like to say thank you to our panel tonight: Stuart Rogers from Welton Rovers, Dave Wilkinson from Radstock Town, and Tony Walsh from Paulton Rovers. They've managed to survive the black hole of Calcutta that is the Summer Valley FM studio. This, of course, was a training exercise in preparation for England's opening game in Manaus. You've all passed. You're all 2 stone lighter. I won't be here next week, although we will hopefully have some interviews for you, including our very own take on the World Cup with some of our local footballing people. But my thanks again to our panel this evening, and Evan and Luke as always, and you've been listening to the Summer Valley Sports Show and our very special Summer Valley Supplement.
The Summer Valley Sports Show.
Undoubtedly the greatest team the nation has ever seen.
From the Sky News Centre at 7. Angelina Jolie's meeting David Cameron at Downing Street following the launch of a global summit aimed at preventing rape being used as a weapon of war. More than 140 countries are involved in the talks in London. Layla Damon was born as a result of rape during the war in Bosnia more than 21 years ago.
Out of so many rapes that went on in Bosnia, I think there were only 12 that actually went to court. It's probably my birth mum's story, this kind of sense of injustice, that nothing ever really got done to help her.
Hundreds of people have started fleeing Iraq's second city of Mosul after militants launched a major assault on security forces. Hardline Islamic militants have taken control of the region. Foreign Secretary William Hague is blaming extremists from Syria.
This underlines the importance and the damaging consequences to neighbouring countries of what is happening in Syria now. It underlines the importance of finding a political solution in Syria. It also requires real political unity in Iraq.
A student died after a shooting at a school in the northwestern US state of Oregon. Police say the suspected gunman's also been killed at the campus outside Portland. Ofgem says energy suppliers need to explain what impact falling wholesale prices will have on customers' bills. The energy regulator says the cost of fuel's been dropping significantly in recent months. There's a warning that more than 1 in 3 adults in England is on the verge of developing type 2 diabetes. That's treble the number of patients who were at risk 8 years ago. Barbara Young is from Diabetes UK.
We're increasingly seeing even children as young as 12, 14, 15 developing type 2 diabetes, which is really heartbreaking.
On to sport now, and European football bosses have told FIFA President Sepp Blatter he should leave office next year. He's faced a hostile meeting of UEFA members in Brazil. FA Vice Chairman David Gill says those present warned him not to stand for a fifth